Mohammed, there's just a particular feeling, isn't there? Like, you're reading the morning's big headline, right? And it says something massive is totally, utterly settled. And you look up from your phone, and then, well, the price at the pump, it's exactly the same. The kitchen's where you left it. It's like you've been listening to two completely different reports about, the very same week. It's odd. Which one, then, is actually correct? The one the headlines are shouting, or the one the order books, are quietly pricing? It's a very good question, I think.
Absolutely, Amara. And it's not just a feeling, is it? It's a tangible gap. We saw it actually just recently. On March 20th, the White House drops this big national policy framework for AI, right? Recommends Congress preempt state laws, single national standard. Sounds decisive, yes? But then on the exact same calendar day, Representative Don Beyer and a group of co-sponsors, they introduced the Guardrails Act, which would repeal the very executive order that the framework rests on. Two events, same day, opposite directions. I've been watching this sequence, for a while. It's quite something.
Opposite directions, Mohammed. That's just wild, eh? It's almost like it's contradictory. How did we even get here then? What's the actual sequence that led to this kind of, split personality and policy,
Oh, it's more orderly than it looks, Amara, if you actually watch the dates. Let me walk you through it quickly. December 11th, 2025, Executive Order 14365. That's the framework's authorizing instrument, right? Then, January 2026, the DOJ AI Litigation Task Force. Their sole job is to challenge state AI laws. Then, March 11th, a Commerce Department evaluation, which was due under that executive order. And it wasn't delivered. Not a word. March 18th, Senator Blackburn releases, the Trump America AI Act discussion draft. And then finally, March 20th, the White House framework, and on the exact same day, guardrails. What I see when I lay all these dates out is an executive action that is, it's looking for legislative cover that the legislature is absolutely not providing. The framework, it's structured as a recommendation. Recommendations, they don't force a vote. Draft legislation, that forces a vote. The choice, Amara, it was made.
The choice was made, you say. And that's the mechanism, isn't it? Because Congress, they've repeatedly just declined to pass any kind of comprehensive AI preemption. They rejected it in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. They rejected it in the National Defense Authorization Act. So this framework, it's not really a step towards legislation, is it? It's more like a step that just lets the administration claim, federal direction, but without, actually exposing any member of Congress to a proper vote. So, the ambiguity is the product then. The non-decision, that's the real deliverable, huh?
Exactly, Amara. You've hit the nail right on the head. And the non-decision, it has beneficiaries. This is the part that you don't really see in the wire coverage. Every single month that this gap persists between declared federal direction and actual enacted federal law, the lobbying infrastructure that profits from contesting state versus federal AI authority, they get another month, yes, of billable hours. The DOJ task force, they get another month of mandate. Incumbent vendors, the ones with the massive legal staff to navigate these 50 regulatory regimes, they hold the structural advantage over any smaller competitors. The framework's authors, they get credit for action without paying the political cost of legislation. None of these beneficiaries, Amara, they want the gap to close. They want it managed. They want it durable. They want it useful.
They want it durable, hey? That's a bit chilling, actually. So let me just put a number on this durability, if I can. The Kalshi prediction market, right? They've got this contract, Fed AI Reg, and it resolves on December 31st, 2026. It pays out yes if a federal AI regulation framework is enacted by year end. And this morning, that contract, it's priced at 0.62, 62 cents on the dollar. So basically a coin flip, but, skewed just a little bit towards yes. But the narrative pricing implied by all the wire coverage and the big law firm trade press,
that's closer to 0.85. That's a 23 percentage point gap, Mohammed, on a question with a fixed resolution date just 8 months out. That's huge. Capital, it's pricing the legislative scoreboard, but coverage, it's pricing the announcement schedule. They are absolutely not the same thing.
Oh, Amara, you're absolutely right. And what that means for the person reading the morning headline, it's something specific, yes? The policy being treated as imminent in the news, it's being treated as a coin flip by the very people who lose money if they're wrong. If you're calibrating a hire, a contract, a state of incorporation choice, an investment, or even a vote against the assumption that federal AI preemption will arrive this year, you are calibrating against a probability that the order book simply does not share. The gap between what you're being told and what's being priced, it's 23 points wide. That gap, it is the cost, Amara, of reading only one of the two reports.
And there's even a confirmation, Amara, sitting right there in the calendar. Remember the Commerce Department evaluation? Due March 11th. Today is April 27th, yes? 47 days overdue. Not a public release. That evaluation, it was the executive order's required artifact, the document that would have, translated declaration into administrative process. It's non-arrival. It's itself a decision. It preserves optionality. The cost is executional credibility. And the cost, it's being paid in a place we can measure. Just look at the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. April final reading, 49.8. It's the lowest reading in the survey's history, going all the way back to 1978. Year-ahead inflation expectations, they rose to 4.7%. Every component of the index, it fell. Every single component, wow. And here's what's really striking about the timing, Mohammed. Most of those survey interviews were done before the Iran ceasefire announcement, right? But sentiment didn't just snap back. The expectations, they stayed innovated. So what households are pricing isn't an acute response to the Middle East. No, they are pricing structural mistrust of institutional decorations that just don't convert to outcomes. That 23-point gap on Fed AI reg and the jump in year-ahead inflation expectations, same observation, two different instruments. Households, they can feel that declarations aren't converting. They just can't yet name the instrument that prices that feeling. The order book, hey? That's the instrument.
The labor market, Amara, it's the adaptive response, Healthcare added 76,000 jobs in March. That's roughly 40% of total non-farm payroll growth that month. Healthcare and social assistance employment is up 2.9% year over year. That's 680,000 jobs. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, they project the sector growing 8.4% through 2034, against 3.1% for the economy as a whole. Labor is concentrating in the one structural absorber that is both demographically driven and AI substitution resistant. This is, what households do when they cannot calibrate against declared policy. They move towards sectors where outcomes just don't depend on whether federal frameworks enact.
Wow. Towards sectors where outcomes do not depend on whether federal frameworks enact. That sentence, Mohammed, it's like the whole episode right there. The household, it's correctly sensing that institutional declarations are decoupling from, operational reality. And the rational response is to position towards parts of the economy where that decoupling just matters less, like healthcare, where demographic demand is structural, or cash buffers, where exposure to inflation expectations is shorter duration.
Reduced media intake, where the cost of recalibrating against false imminence narratives is lower. None of this is panic then. It's just the household pricing the same gap the order book is pricing, with its own instruments, its time, its labor allocation, its spending discipline.
Exactly. It's how they cope. And here's the recursive structure, Amara. The federal declaration, it produces state legislative responses, right? Over 600 AI bills introduced in 2026 sessions, roughly 400 pending. These state responses, they expand the litigation surface that the DOJ task force is mandated to challenge. This litigation surface, it produces more compliance complexity, and that compliance complexity, it produces more demand for federal preemption. But Congress, they decline preemption, so the framework issues another declaration. State legislatures respond again. The loop, it just accelerates. Each cycle, the rate at which AI capability outpaces both federal and state regulatory iteration, it widens further. The governance system, Amara, it was built around sector-specific rulemaking. It was not built for a general-purpose technology adopting at this rate.
It was absolutely not built for it, no. And the framework's recommendation is to handle that adoption through existing sector-specific regulators, right? Rather than like a whole new federal AI rulemaking body, which means the framework is recommending the system continue to handle this technology with the same instrument that the same framework's own documents implicitly acknowledge cannot handle the technology. That's not a contradiction, Mohammed. That's the design, isn't it? The recursion is the system, and the system, it's working as designed, just not as advertised.
Amara, this is where I'd push the analysis one step further, you know? The gap between declaration and enactment, it is not a temporary malfunction. By the fourth quarter of 2026, the lobbying infrastructure that's invested in maintaining this gap, it will have moved from situational to structural. The DOJ task force, they'll have begun bringing cases that produce years of court time without producing 2026 enactment outcomes. The Colorado AI Act will have taken effect.
The commerce evaluation, may or may not arrive, and if it arrives, it will be shaped by the political utility of its arrival date. By the 2028 cycle, the question will not be, will federal AI preemption pass? The question will be, which incumbents have positioned themselves to extract the most value from continued non-passage? Households calibrated correctly toward healthcare and cash discipline today, they will be reading the next 2 years correctly. Households calibrated against announced policy will be carrying the cost of the gap on their balance sheets. The cost, Amara, it is denominated in opportunity. The hire not made, the contract written against the wrong assumption, the political engagement directed at a process that was never, ever going to resolve in the timeline the new cycle implied.
The cost is denominated in opportunity. That's just such a powerful way to put it. And the instrument that's been pricing it, it's been visible the whole time, hey? You just had to know to look for it. What you have now is the instrument.
So, Mohammed, what are we watching for now? What are the next immediate observables to truly know which version of this week was real?
Right, okay. So the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee, Amara, they're expected to release a draft on AI safety standards. That release, or its absence, that's the next observable. If it lands by Friday, the gap, it may begin to narrow. Capital and narrative might actually converge on the more aggressive timeline. But if that draft does not land by Friday, the Kalshi session report says capital moves below 0.58. The divergence widens. The year-end resolution starts to look more like the order book's pricing than the wire coverage's pricing. By Friday, you'll know. Watch the Senate subcommittee. Watch the contract move. Watch whether the commerce evaluation lands or stays held. The order book, Amara, it has already told you which one to read. The week is already deciding itself, whether you're inside that decision or outside it. That, well, that's the only question still open.
My dear listeners, as we wrap up another fascinating dive into the undercurrents of power, I truly must take a moment to thank each and every one of you for being here with us. Your engagement makes this journey so much richer. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, please consider leaving a like, a comment, subscribing to our channel, or better yet, sharing this episode to help expand our network. And don't forget to search through our older videos for topics that pique your particular interest. Mohammed, your final thought. Whether you're inside that decision or outside it, that's the only question still open. It resonates, doesn't it? It's not just about watching the game, but understanding where you stand on the field, perhaps even how to play it. The order book, you suggest, gives us the playbook.
Precisely, Amara. The data, the pricing, it offers clarity amidst the cacophony. To be inside means aligning your actions with the actual probabilities, not the advertised ones. It's about recognizing the structural truths, even when they're inconvenient, and using that understanding to navigate your own professional and personal landscape. It empowers rather than disorients.
Empowers, yes. And that's exactly what we hope to offer our discerning audience, to move beyond the headlines and truly grasp the mechanics at play. It's not just analysis, it's a guide to how these gaps, these non-decisions, truly touch their lives, their choices.
Indeed, because ultimately, the cost of misunderstanding these dynamics is paid by individuals and enterprises, not by the institutions that create the ambiguity. Our aim is to illuminate that cost, allowing everyone to make more informed choices, armed with the knowledge of what the